Howdy y'all! Today we're going to talk about signal flow, and to start I just want to go over a couple common cable types. Firstly, I've got a TS or instrument cable here, and it's a 1/4 inch because of the diameter. You'll see this used for guitar or bass most commonly, or any unbalanced signal flow. In contrast, I've got a TRS cable here. You can see there's an extra line here, and this is used for stereo applications such as headphones or balanced signals. Speaking of balanced signals, I've got an XLR cable here, or a mic cable, and this also does microphone or any balanced signal flow. Another thing to note about these cables, this XLR has a male and a female end. So it'll go inside there, whereas TS and TRS cables are most commonly seen as a male to male. And that's somewhat of an outdated verbal protocol because it's predicated on some pretty reductionist gender views. But anyway, a little more on the difference between a TS and a TRS cable. So here the TS cable, used for guitar and bass, we've got a tip and a sleeve. So the tip will carry the signal and the sleeve the ground. And TS, of course, stands for tip, sleeve. TRS, we've got a tip, a ring, and a sleeve. So this ring here can carry an extra signal. Sometimes in a headphones application, we'll have a left, a right, and a ground. But in a balanced signal application, we'll have a hot signal, a cold signal, and the ground. And XLR here, here's the male end of an XLR cable. Again, we've got 3 points of contact. So we've got a ground signal as well as a hot and cold. I was mentioning balanced versus unbalanced signals. So let's demystify that a little bit. So a unbalanced signal, as in your guitar going to your amp, is one signal wire and a ground. And a problem that you can have when you're running more delicate signals is that noise will be introduced to that ground wire and then amplified on the other end. So for instance, if I'm trying to send a microphone signal to my audio interface, if it were unbalanced, there would be a lot of noise and hum and just generally undesirable sounds. The balanced signal takes 2 identical versions of what the mic is picking up, 2 identical signals, and we have the hot and the cold. So the hot is normal, and the cold then has a flipped polarity, and that changes the phase relationship 180 degrees. So it puts it exactly out of phase or anti-phase. And to demonstrate that, I've got a signal here. This is just a synth tone, and it's a single sine wave note. So I've got 2 identical versions of it, and I'm going to play it. So these 2 identical signals, if I mute one, it's about half as loud. So when I'm messing with the phase, we zoom in real tight, we see the waveforms here with the amplitude going above and below this 0 line. And if I take these signals and put them out of phase like that, to where one identical signal is going into the positive territory while the other is going into the negative territory, see what happens. Much, much quieter. And if I were to get them perfectly out of phase, maybe about like that, it's very, very quiet. So now back to our microphone signal. What's happening in the microphone is, so the mic itself is sending the phase inverted signals through the cable. So the cable is receiving 2 perfectly out of phase signals, so there should be no audio. And then along the signal's journey, a lot of noise might be added from electronic interference. And then that noise, however, is going to be currently in phase with itself. So now we have out of phase desirable signal and in phase undesirable signal traveling through the cable And when it hits your audio interface, then the cold signal gets flipped. So now the desirable audio signals are back in phase and reinforcing each other, whereas the undesirable noise introduced is out of phase. So it cancels out. You have reduced noise. I hope that makes sense.